Now, this is chapter 208. Okay. Guess that wouldn't do it too far. Yep. Okay, I guess that's still true. Yep. Agreed, by the way. Alright, of course, definitely. I knew this was supposed to happen before we know this. Alright, of course. I know, definitely. I agree from now on, but you assume, Julie. Alright. I know, it's already this much. But it's still true. Alright, of course. Yep. I agree from now on. But if you assume, that might be. Yep. I was gonna know this, Julie. Before I know this, definitely. I was gonna know this. I wouldn't think you did know this? No, not yet. Definitely, but if I could assume from now on, I was gonna know this. Alright, of course. If I could assume, it was supposed to happen before we know this, definitely. I was gonna know this. It's still true, by the way. Alright, of course. Yep. I was gonna know this, Julie. Before I know this, by the way. Alright, of course. I know it's supposed to happen. You agree with that one? Yep. I was gonna know this before, but it's still true, by the way. Alright, of course. I know, definitely. I agree from now on. But if I could assume... I guess it's still true. Yep. You didn't know this? Yep. If I could assume... I guess that's supposed to happen. Wait, how do you know this? I know. Spoon's a lot, by the way. Eventually, I guess it's still true. Before I know this. Yep. Okay. Guess I was gonna know this. Until before I know this. Before I know this. Right, of course. I know, it was supposed to happen. But that's still true, by the way. Right, of course. Definitely. But how do you know this? I don't know. Right, of course. I was gonna make sure, then you realize. I don't know yet. You sure you realize that? Yes, it does, definitely. I agree from now on. If I could assume, I guess that's supposed to happen. But that's still true, by the way. Before I know this. Why, of course. I know, it was supposed to happen. But that's still true, by the way. I know, definitely. You agree from now on? Yep. Okay. I was gonna know this before I know this, definitely. Of course. Yep. I was gonna know this before I know this, definitely. Alright, of course. I know, definitely. It gets around here this much, but it's still true, by the way. Alright, of course. I know. Even sense, by the way, before I know this. Yep. Okay.